Life's a journey, God in disguise. Ever half we walk out with last high prize. In this podcast realm, we're diving deep, unraveling the threads that the universe keeps. Game of life, we explore, unfold dreams, empower minds, ignite those inner beams. Voices rise, tales of courage and strife. Welcome to the journey, the game of life, game of life. We explore, unfold dreams, empower minds, ignite those inner beams. Voices rise, tales of courage and strife. Welcome to the journey, the game of life.
All right, family, welcome in. How y'all doing today? Hope y'all doing well. Um, First and foremost, as always, thank you so much for liking, sharing, subscribing, supporting the content. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, we got to have a heart to heart. It's not going to be the most fun or entertaining conversation, but it's very important. I can promise you that. Now, the reason that we have to have a heart to heart is because um, the data and statistics of my research is showing that um, by 2035, 1 in 2 Americans are going to be dependent on some form of universal basic income, is what I'll call it. So, some sort of governmental assistance of income. And at a time where the government shut down and we're seeing we can't rely on the system to give us benefits, right? Or at least if you do rely on it, you're going to be uncomfortable a lot of the time. I wanted to stress this because ultimately this is the reason that I decided to build wealth codes, this whole content. And so in this beginner version of wealth codes that I started, we're starting to wrap up. But obviously, as we get closer to the end, almost like a TV show, it's getting to the climax, and this is one of those climax episodes where I think it's important for you to pay attention. It's a little uncomfortable. There's a lot going on, but we got to know. So, you know me, I don't just come out here and talk about things without backing it up. So when I say that by 2035, there's going to be half of the country on universal basic income. Let's talk about why I would say that, right? Where am I getting that from? And I would say that for several reasons. So let's take a look real quick. At the very first thing is AI. All right, so here's a Goldman Sachs article, and they are predicting um, AI is going to take over about 300 million jobs. That's quite a bit, right? So to really think about how AI is starting to take over, that is in every field effectively, whether that's finance, whether that's business, whether that's data analytics, whether that's social media, whether that's even driving. Okay. I don't know if you all saw recently, and I can pull it up here shortly. But unfortunately, AI is starting to take over even something as simple as Uber or Lyft, right? Or just getting a taxi. There are driverless cars that are out there, and they're doing it at a fraction of the cost, right? Because there's no human being that's driving the car, so effectively, it can charge a fourth of what a human would need to actually make it worth their while or worth their time. And so that's just one example. Let's take a look at another thing that we're going to be diving into. So, Social Security. So, traditional finance is starting to tilt, right? It's starting to fade. So, Social Security, I don't care which website you look at, just a quick Google search, it's projected to be, it's not currently insolvent, but by late 2032, up through maybe 2034, we're seeing that it's going to be insolvent, right? So you can look at this Committee for Responsible Federal Budget.org, right? As of August 14, 2025, they're saying 2032. You can look at CNBC, right? Mainstream news, they're saying by 2034. You can look at Merrill Lynch, one of the top investment firms. They're saying by 2033. Frankly, it doesn't matter who's right, 2032, 2033, 2034. The point is, by 2035, we're going to see major changes over the U.S. economy, and really global economy for that matter. And we're already starting to see it, right? So I just put myself on the top left again. This is an article by Reuters just today actually. Today is November 6th, so just today, U.S. layoffs for October surged to 2-decade high. Right, and let's look at why they're saying this. U.S. based employers cut more than 150,000 jobs in October, marking the biggest reduction for the month in more than 20 years. Tech firms led the job cuts in the private sector, followed by retailers and services sector. Okay. Why? AI driven changes and intensifying cost cuts. But what are we talking about? I want to focus on helping you understanding that AI is one of the major players of what's taking place. And I want you to know it's not just coming, it's here. Okay, I even have it verified across many different sectors that it's here and it's having an impact. Obviously, Amazon just laid off 14,000 employees and it was mostly corporate. Supposedly, there's another 14, 15,000 that are coming down the pipeline. In fact, it was mostly AR, if I remember correctly, for Amazon. And what does that tell you? Should tell you two things. Number one, they're not very concerned about their existing human resources or human capital that they employ, because they're downgrading or downsizing their human resources department that administers them, right? On top of that, that also signals that they're not concerned very much on hiring more human beings. Right, so there's a dual-edged sword effect there that we really got to prepare for. Remember, we're talking about the next 5 to 10 years. That's why I'm talking to you about wealth codes right now. Why I'm trying to get you to reframe how you see finance and building wealth right now, because the traditional ways of building wealth, they're not going to be successful. Playing it safe, in all of the traditional sense and conservative sense, is not going to work. It's going to lead to a path of uncomfortability and likely to low class, low standard of living. Give me 1 second. I'm going to put something on the screen here to kind of help you see what I'm saying. And just a simple PowerPoint, nothing special. I'll zoom in a little bit. So I already talked to you about how the traditional economy is dying and went over all those kind of things. And I showed you how the corporations are showing you, right? They're telling you that they're not prioritizing you. But let's take it back real quick. I want to show you some data. Current economic classes. This is by Pew Research. They're one of the top research firms out there. As of 2025, the lower class for a family of four, which it equals 30% of households right now for the US, and they make less than $50,000. The middle class, and that's who I'm talking to, most of the regular people, right? Middle class. They make currently between $50,000 and $150,000 for a family of four. That is 50% of households. And the upper class makes greater than $150,000 for a family of four. That equals 20% of households. Now, you need to know that back in 1971, the middle class number was 61% of the country. As of today, it's 50%, right? So that downtrend is very clear. We've already lost 11% of the middle class. The question is, how does that number change? Where do those people go? Do they go up or down? I think we obviously all know those people usually go down to the lower class, right? It's hard to get up, easy to go down. Let's keep going. By this same research firm, they expect that by 2035, middle class is going to be at 37%. Lower class now up to 41%, and the upper class slightly higher at 22%. That's what they expect. Okay. Now, I want to go back real quick just for a quick second, because I don't know about y'all, but I look at the cost of living today, and you can tell me that middle class is $50,000 for a family of four, but I'm not sure I agree with that. In fact, I know I don't agree with that. I can only imagine having to feed 2 kids, and then I got myself and my wife, and as a household, we only make $50,000 to $60,000 a year. That's going to be incredibly difficult, and I don't care where in the country you're at. Maybe I can give you 70 to $80,000 as a household for a family of four, and we're making it work, right? That's middle class, maybe. But I just wanted to note that because even they're still counting that as middle class, and those people aren't able to make it work. And when we think of middle class, usually I think we all agree we think of comfortability. They can at least make ends meet month to month. You might not be able to be super comfortable and have all this discretionary money, but you can at least pay your bills and rest at night knowing that at least your lights ain't going to be turned off. That's what I think of middle class, and I think we'd agree. So I did my own personal research, my standards, right? And by 2035, the way this is looking is that you're going to need $133,000 per year for a family of four, which is going to be about 49% of households by 2035. That's the way the data is showing. Middle class between 133 and 400,000 for a family of four, that's going to be 31% of households. Right? Do you see how that number went down from 50 where we are today to 31%? And upper class staying roughly about the same, but they're going to be making about over 400,000. All right. Now you might be wondering, Tex, where did you get those numbers? That seems like a lot of money per year. Remember, we're talking about 2035, 10 years from now. But let's not wait till we get there to start planning so we can have success, right? What is it? The 5 P's? Proper preparations prevents poor performance, right? We got to prepare, proper preparation. So 2025, let's look at this just quick chart that I put up. And this is what I think, remember, this is what I would tell you just to be comfortable, to make your normal ends meet. The average American as of 2025, their rent payment is $2,200. Utilities, $400. By the way, the fellow homeowners out there, think about your current electricity, current energy bill. If you have gas, right? What are those bills just alone before you get to talking about water, trash, and all this type of stuff, sewer, right? Internet, $200. Food, $1,000. Car payments, $500. Car insurance, $150. Gas and maintenance, we talked about that, right? But that's for driving. Healthcare, $600. Child care, that's a big one. Not all of you have child care, so maybe you can nix that off. But again, we think middle class, usually people in the middle class are trying to get their families going and all that. So $1,800 a month, because childcare is not cheap. If you got kids, you know. Retirement savings, you obviously need to start retiring. Remember, we just talked about Social Security ain't going to be there. Most people don't get pension anymore. So you're going to have to start putting money away for your retirement, or you're going to have nothing in your retirement. We're talking about 10 years from now. So imagine when you go to retirement, maybe 20 years from now, maybe 30 years from now, imagine how expensive that's going to be. We haven't even gotten there yet. And then hygiene. If you want to have employment, you're going to have some hygiene, right? Clothing, etc. And then miscellaneous. And that's what I would describe as life. When life happens. Maybe that's date night, but it also can just be you got to put tires on the car, right? You got to put tags on your car to register with the state and keep that up, right? These random things that come up that you have to pay for. So that totals $8,250 there at the bottom. That's monthly. Currently, as of today, for the average American. By 2035, that's looking like $11,000 per month. That's where I got this figure from. $133,000 minimum to be middle class. 31% of households, 1 in 2 of you are projected not to be able to afford that. I know that's very uncomfortable to even consider, to even wrap your mind around, but I gotta pause there and make sure you're really getting it. Imagine a country where 1 in 2 people, you haven't been used to that here in America, you have not, where 1 in 2 people cannot afford to make ends meet. I know people are struggling now, but I'm telling you, if 1 in 2 people can't even afford to go get groceries, it's going to be a very uncomfortable time for all of us. I don't care if you have money or not. You gonna wish you had complete separation from that other half. I promise you, you will, because that other half is not gonna let you be uncomfortable or comfortable. They're gonna be very uncomfortable. They're gonna be looking at you as an opportunity, let's say. We've had people as of now, just from SNAP benefits, talking about be careful going to the grocery store because if I'm not getting fed, I'm gonna have to get it from somewhere. And I don't want to be too crazy about it, but I'm trying to get you to really imagine what that world looks like. You don't want to be a part of the have-nots in that world. But also, most importantly, this is where I'm getting at when I say people are going to be on some form of universal basic income. I also want you to imagine in that world, because it's not that far away. We're going into 2026. 2015 don't seem that far away. Pre-COVID don't seem that far away, but yet it was almost 6 years ago, right? But I also want you to take into account and think about imagining a world where during that time you think you're safe because you are not in a field where AI can take over. And there's going to be some fields like that, but I need you to realize that this world gets impacted no matter what, even if your job is safe. So let's talk about like a doctor, for example, or a lawyer, for example. Most of your revenue comes from the middle class for the majority of you, right? If you are a lawyer, most of you are not all operating in the upper class. Some of you are. You exclusively working with high-end clients, right? But it's the middle class that pays a lot of the bills. If the middle class shrinks, that means your income also shrinks. That's just the math of it. And let's be very clear, the people in the upper class, you might say, oh, I'm going to start prioritizing them. Sure. But you're also in competition with more people for that small amount of people. And they already got their relationships built. So you're going to have to come to the table with something extra to break through those existing relationships, to penetrate those existing relationships and capture that business. Or you can stay with the average client, right? But the average client will have less and less money to be able to afford you. So you're going to have to bring those prices down. I'm trying to help you understand it's not just the AI you got to be worried about. It's the impact across the board that you have to mentally be prepared for. It's not going to be comfortable if you haven't planned accordingly to make sure that you are maximizing your route. But you're going to be happy you got a job. If you are not impacted, you're at least going to be happy that you got that income. I'm just trying to help you prepare mentally so you can get your ducks in a row and be the best version of you. And I also don't want any of you, anybody I care about, to be part of the 49% that is in the low class, because it's going to be impossible to get up out of that. Once AI takes over, everything goes digital. The technology is going to penetrate and look for ways to keep you trapped in a certain realm or bucket. That's how it's going to be designed to be. So I want you to think about that. And ultimately, here's the summary. Playing it safe, the idea of going the traditional route, is a trap. It really is. Think about saying you're going to graduate and go to school, right? Sorry, graduate high school and then go to college, right? Go to graduate school, but you're going to take a bunch of debt to do so, which is what most of us do, right? Let's say you want to go to Mizzou, right? And that's going to cost you $20,000, $30,000 a year. So you're going to go into debt to roughly $100,000 and pray that there's a job out there for you. Recently, I just saw that graduates from college that graduated in 24, there was like 41% of them that actually graduated and got their job in the field that they went to school for, that they got their degree in. 41%. There's another 50 to 60% of people there that still have no job. And if they got one, it wasn't even in what they want to do, which means they're just working a job, hoping to make ends meet. But remember, we're talking about 2030 to 2035. That number's only going to get worse. And this is what I'm trying to prepare you for. That traditional way of finance, traditional way of depending on corporations to save you and the corporate world stimulating the economy and propping up the economy, that time is gone. So what do you have to do? And we're going to talk about this in the next episode of Wealth Codes, but you're going to have to look for creative ways to earn wealth, to build wealth. You're going to have to look at being an entrepreneur. You're going to have to look at being your own brand, being your own identity, and embracing that fully and doing what you love so that way it stands out. There's no way around the fact that AI is here and here to stay. And once they replace these jobs, you either got to get in alignment with it, so increase your skills, right, around AI, or you're going to have to get be in trades like construction, electrician, plumbing, HVAC, these kind of things that are physical and needed that robots aren't ready for yet. But a lot of the traditional ways of operating and creating at least middle class wealth, that's going down. Don't wait and talk about you didn't know. I haven't even verified that at one of the top banks in the world, you can't even talk to the C-level employees, like send them an email and stuff without going through AI first. Think about that. They're demanding that you use AI in order to communicate. How long are those roles going to be around when AI is doing that? So I'm going to end it there. I promise this isn't to scare everybody. This is to start sparking your mind to prepare, open it up, because this is the reason I'm talking about wealth codes. In the very next episode, I'm going to bring to you, remember, we've talked about the whole game at this point. The existing system that it's failing and why it's failing and how it was never designed to work long term anyway. We talked about what money and currency really is, which is just energy. We talked about the fact that the elites, from their perspective of the game, all they care about is energy and your energy to be specific. And I showed you them telling you that. Not just me talking about it. Today, we talked about how the next 5 to 10 years, the traditional system that we all are used to is going down, right? The economy was real corporatized. Now the economy is going to be real individualized. And then next episode, I'm going to teach you how to, I also taught you how to invest your wealth, which is real assets, right? That's how you actually invest your wealth. Gold, silver, and then in the new crypto and digital space, because that's where everything's going. So I did teach you that too. Now I'm going to teach you how to build moving forward, which is your income strategy. All right. So that's going to be next episode. That's how we're going to look at holistic wealth, but you had to know where I was going. You had to know the full circle of the game. It couldn't just be the traditional way of thinking, because that traditional way is going to lead to failure, and I don't want that for any of you. So I'm going to leave you with it. Be on the lookout for that next video here shortly. It's going to be a little bit longer one. We're going in depth into income building, into how to think about energy and abundance and income creation. That's not going to be this quick 20-25 minute video. That's one's going to be probably closer to an hour. However, it's worth it. I promise you. That being said, I love y'all. All right. Appreciate all the love and support. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, follow, all these kind of things. Peace.